Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Healing Power of African American Spirituality, a celebration of ancestor worship, herbs and hoodoo, ritual and conjure, by Stephanie Rose Bird, narrated by L. Malaika Cooper. Publisher's note: this audiobook may refer to visual elements included in the print and ebook editions of the book. This book contains advice and information relating to herbs and plants and is not meant to diagnose, treat, or prescribe. It should be used to supplement, not replace, the advice of your physician or other trained healthcare practitioner. If you know or suspect you have a medical condition, are experiencing physical symptoms, or if you feel unwell, seek your physician's advice before embarking on any medical program or treatment. Those using the information in this book do so entirely at their own risk, and the author and publisher accept no liability if adverse effects are caused. Introduction. From a young age, I was interested in all things considered dark and macabre, metaphysical, and what we've come to know as the mind-body-spirit connection. My work focuses on a particular aspect of healing that wants a place at the table and has much to contribute to the conversation. This work revolves around the intersection of my African ancestry and the African American culture I was raised in, and the age-old, though contemporary, magical and spiritual healing ways that stem from this deep well. My passion for this topic stems from curiosity about African-centered spiritual beliefs. I am called to them from my center. I have published 7 books, including the COVR award-winning Sticks, Stones, Roots, and Bones. My books explore anthropology, healing, folklore, mythology, and magical spirituality. The healing power of African American spirituality brings all of these subjects together and takes a deep dive into them. By its very nature and intent, this is an eclectic book, which makes sense because I am an eclectic pagan. You will not find devotion to a singular path in this book. The unifying element is the wisdom and guidance of the ancestors, a spiritually alive and evolving force. I seek to situate African American healing in its rightful place in the lexicon of American and other healing traditions. In films and in some novels, Black spiritual practices do seem to fall into that category of interest I first mentioned, the macabre, when in reality that is not their holistic nature. Once you delve deeply into the varied continental African healing and spiritual practices, those influenced by sub-Saharan African healers, the people from which many of us descendants of slaves hold ancestry, a new picture develops. African American spiritual practices outside Abrahamic religions have been little understood, but over the years they have become more clearly defined and distinctive. Once, our spiritual practices from the motherland were outlawed, punishable by state-condoned torture and death. These ways have persisted through the Middle Passage and enslavement period to freedom. They are alive and within us into the present day. Miraculously, they have not only survived, but continued to grow and evolve. In this book, I delight in the rich array of Africanisms, spiritual practices that are found in our food ways, song ways, art ways, and dance ways. These unique practices are flourishing today. As an herbalist and aromatherapist, my practice, and thus my writing, focuses on plants. Here, I explore African diasporic practices and beliefs that have a footing in the world of spirit through an engagement with plant magic and lore. This predilection for the spirituality of plants imbues this book with an eclectic African-centered vision that encompasses disparate belief systems that are connected through a genesis in the wide and diverse areas of both sub-Saharan and continental Africa. This book is an exploration into African and African American spirituality, with a locus firmly situated in spiritual healing. When a bright light is flashed on the inequities and brutality my people suffer, such as the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, at the hands of those entrusted to protect and save us from trouble, the need for African-inspired spirituality is especially strong. Hoodoo, a largely African-American group of folkloric practices, deals with everyday and common concerns. Specific herbs, which are called roots in the practice, come together with water and other natural elements to yield results. Hoodoo offers the ability to act on issues such as justice and social justice, which are challenging to address on the physical plane. It is an important part of this book because it breeds hope now, when we need it most. My goal is to not only cultivate understanding and appreciation for Black spirituality and healing ways, but also to take its understanding and practice a step further. By presenting history, along with contemporary practices, my hope is to inspire and equip you to draw from this deep well of wisdom, working from where you stand. Our practices are vibrant. They evolve as they continue to grow. This is my contribution to a folkloric and spiritual group of practices, centered around natural objects and, most of all, plants with strong roots in the motherland. How to use this book. How does one utilize a book that covers so much territory? To tap the wisdom of the ancestors, the Sankofa bird is a fitting symbol. From the Chi language of some people of Ghana, it represents the idea that you must look back at all you've been and all you've learned, and then look ahead to a more spiritually blessed future. This is the power in the image of Sankofa, and it can be your power too. Sankofa is associated with the proverb, "It is not wrong to go back for what you have forgotten." This book provides you with some such opportunity. I know it's difficult to do all of this in our challenging times, but it doesn't hurt to try. Listen to this book with curiosity and an open heart. Take breathers to reflect on everything you've taken in. Meditate on potential applications of what you've heard to add to your daily life. Practice the types of work most meaningful to you, be they domestic, healing, for love, for abundance and prosperity, or cleansing. Adapt and continue to grow. Note: while this book covers some historical and traditional practices, I do not advocate for killing animals in ritual or using animal parts in our work for both legal and ethical reasons. As a vegetarian and environmentalist, I believe it's important to protect animals and our fragile environment. Chapter 1: African American Spirituality, an Overview. African American spirituality is a complex subject because its origins stretch across borders and touch on many different cultures. In this chapter, we examine African American spirituality as it is influenced by various African and Caribbean practices. We explore basic concepts in the lexicon of African earth-based spirituality, such as Ashe, Asi, Nyama, and Dalilu, and in so doing, find expanded meaning for the term we typically use to refer to nature being alive with spirit, animism. Africanisms. Africanisms are African-derived or inspired cultural practices present in traditions, language, and beliefs of a related culture, such as the African-descended people of the Americas and Caribbean. This first chapter is a journey into the heart of earth-based spirituality, as it presents itself in Africa and the diaspora. It is designed to help those who do not only simply want to understand these practices, but also those who want to become practitioners of African-styled, earth-based spirituality, master the concepts behind these practices, understand Africanism, and appreciate the deep connection our spirituality has to continental Africa and various locales in the African diaspora. To get to the heart of this eclectic group of practices, we must consider the term often applied to African American practices, soul. We start by looking at the African relationship to spirit. Spiritual terms, ATRs and ADRs. African traditional religions, ATRs, are the original pre-Christian, pre-Islamic religions of the indigenous sub-Saharan African people and include the Iye Ifa of the Yoruba people. African-derived religions, ADRs, are the types of spiritual practices found in the African diaspora and include Santeria, Obeah, Lukumi, Regla di Ocha, Orisa, and Quimbwa. A boundaryless spirituality. Many African Americans are descendants of sub-Saharan cultures that honor spirit as alive within nature. This includes the well-defined corpus of beliefs held by the Yoruba on the path of Iye Ifa, the cosmology of the Igbo, the shamanism of the Zulu, and neighboring groups of Southern Africans, the wise griots, Jeles, and priests of Bamana, further northwest, and the healers of Democratic Republic of Congo, from which many African Americans descend. All of these and other diverse groups' colorful belief systems were shared on the slave ships for generations, spilling over onto New World soils, filling our thoughts with the capability of seeing the universe and, indeed, certain objects as alive, powerful, and filled with potentiality. Crossing cultural boundaries is a normal part of life for many multicultural people from our earliest history in the Americas. We speak various tongues, whether an officially recognized language or Creole, patois, tribal language, or perhaps a colloquial language of our homes and neighborhoods that differs from what is taught in schools. As we travel through life communicating with various people in ways that seem most appropriate, we resist the fixed linguistic and spiritual spaces or boxes that are often imposed on us. Where in the world? Afro-Caribbean, British Caribbean, French Caribbean. The banishing and survival of sacred rites. When my people were enslaved and brought to the United States, they quickly learned that speaking of nature spirits of nature such as trees, mountains, bodies of water, and stones was a no-no, punishable even by death. Eventually, African traditional religions, ATRs, and African-derived religions, ADRs, were made illegal in the United States and parts of the Caribbean. Such incursions have even been made recently in various parts of Africa. Rather than communicate their beliefs to each other or with other cultures, enslaved Africans adapted their language to the Christian or Islamic faith of the dominant culture. In their healing work in the Americas and the Caribbean, they incorporated prayers of the dominant faith while maintaining various elements of African traditional spirituality, ATRs and ADRs. The scripture from the Holy Bible often masked the ATRs in the Christian cloak of the Protestant or Catholics, that is, an acceptable religion. Rather than describing herbs as being imbued with spirit or a healer as being connected to the spirit of nature, practitioners describe the connections as coming from the Christian God. In this way, healing remained sacred work, but it was communicated in a language more acceptable to the mainstream instead of the language associated with ATRs. When newly freed people of color began pressing for political and economic representation in both the British and French Caribbean islands, they were subdued first and foremost through their religious practices. For example, Obeah and Quimbwa were suppressed or made illegal in the French Caribbean. During this time, one could be persecuted simply for practicing either religion, which those with power considered both dangerous and superstitious. These organized efforts to interfere with Obeah and Quimbois prevented practitioners from openly observing their ancestral rituals, ceremonies, and priestly duties. There has always been a strong sense of survival underlining African Caribbean spirituality, however. Though these traditions were temporarily underground, they have survived to the present day. Despite the best efforts to destroy connections to African traditional religions, there remains in the African diaspora a cultural perspective that healing, using natural objects such as minerals and stones, various parts of plants, and animal teeth, bones, and skins is sacred because everything in nature is imbued with spiritual power. Spiritual terms. Babalawo, a healer, priest of Iye Ifa, keeper of secrets. Orisha, a deity in the Yoruba Iya Ifa cosmology. Oshun, Orisha of beauty, sensuality, and fresh water. Padrino, godfather / spiritual parent in Santeria or Ifa. Shango, fire, trickster Orisha in Yoruban pantheon. Yemaya Alakun, mother, father of the sea in the Yoruba pantheon. Yemaya is the upper ocean goddess and Olokun the deep sea god. Quimbois, Obeah, Shango, Vodou, Mayal, Hoodoo, Lukumi, and Regla de Ocha, the religions of the Orisha, continue in the African diaspora because they fill a vital function in Black society: the ability to address the physical and spiritual realm as well as the environment in a way that reflects traditional African healing. The broad spectrum of African American spirituality. In thinking of spirit in a Western context, healing, prayer, invocation, and the church naturally come to mind. Like most Africans and African-descended people, my family has close ties to organized religion, and, in fact, my maternal grandmother was a spiritualist, minister of a holiness church. My second father, however, was a babalawo of Shango. My uncle, a drummer and a well-respected priest who did healing energy work, was a spiritual padrino of sorts to me and became one of the most influential figures in my spiritual life. The following are a few of the ways and concepts through which African spirituality has survived into today. Ancestor spirits. In Haiti's Vodou, the Gede are a family of spirits. In parts of West Africa and on the path of Ifa, Igun, which translates as bones, refers to spirits. Both Gede and Igun refer to the spirits of the ancestors, those who have passed on. Many of us among the living realize that their spirits are a guiding force in everyday life as well as sacred activities. Thus, we erect and maintain altars in remembrance of them. We visit with the ancestors in our dreams and vision quests, inviting their energy to bless medicinal blends so that they are infused with their spirit of goodwill, which will provide potent, healing energy that grows from their connection with a wide array of entities. This is a very important facet of African-inspired healing work and holistic health. Magical herbalism. When undertaking magical herbalism for holistic health, honoring the pot, fire, candle, and tree as living entities with souls is essential. This is used cross-culturally throughout Africa and the African diaspora. Magic, with a K, is the art and science of causing change according to one's intention, which is distinct from the magic of illusion. Neo-paganism. Understanding our past is critical to our ability to self-heal our communities today. In neo-paganism and fused paths, it is still important to preserve and disseminate the older ways of thinking because they offer a distinctive vision of the universe that remains viable. Engagement with ATRs and ADRs help us maintain a spiritual connection with our planet, as well as contact with our ancestors who mediate between humans, gods, goddesses, nature spirits, and the Creator being herself on our behalf. Shamanism. Shamanism encompasses an array of traditional beliefs and practices found around the world, with a major emphasis on communication with the spirit world. Shamanism has existed for thousands of years and is still practiced today. A practitioner of shamanism is known as a shaman. Shamans address matters of the mind, body, and spirit in the community, home environment, and individual. They are intermediaries between the human and spirit worlds. They can treat illness and are capable of entering supernatural realms to provide assistance to their clients. In sub-Saharan Africa, the shaman, who is often a hunter or warrior, heals by knowing and applying the collective power and proper mixture of plants and the elements. Here, the term shaman is less common. The person who performs these practices is more often called a warrior, hunter, midwife, or healer. Around the world, shamans go by a variety of names and vocations. Spiritual concepts and practices. The following are concepts and practices important to understanding the manifestations of spirit and soul in African culture. Animism and Ashe. Animism is the belief that natural objects are alive and have a spirit and soul. Through an animistic lens, there is an important purpose for us once we make that final journey over into the realm of the spirit. In death, we continue to be honored by our family and ancestors and continue to have a vital role in our communities. As spirits, we live free of the constraints that society or even a corporeal body previously imposed on us. In our ceremonial and ritual life, we experience natural and supposedly inanimate objects as alive because of this guiding belief in animism. This belief also allows us to meld more easily into the environment, coexisting meaningfully with the seasons, traveling freely with the wheel of the year, becoming as one with nature. We travel into the spirit realm through ecstatic dance, chant, and special songs, or with the aid of potent herbal medicines prepared by specialists. In some regions of the world, however, particularly in West Africa, you are much more likely to see the word Ashe used in a conjunction with African shamanism rather than the word animism. Ashe means the invisible power of nature. It is a West African word that describes magical forces and energies of the universe. Ashe is present in nature, herbal preparations, and art made from natural materials. Herbal teas, incense powders, spiritual washes, healing balms, soap, charms, medicine bundles, and even the purposefully spoken word contain Ashe. The Igala people of Nigeria, for example, consider any type of plant life to be filled with both medicinal power and the knowledge required to cure disease. Medicines, whether designed to address spiritual or physical complaints, are believed to derive their power from Ashe. Power objects. What we consider African art often serves a utilitarian purpose within sub-Saharan African communities. For example, power objects, which are shields, masks, sculptures, amulets, or charms, are all gifted by the power and energy of natural spirits. Each power object is a conglomeration of different elements of Ashe. For example, both the Bamani Como Society masks and Boli figurative sculptures are encrusted with feathers and quills. The mystical powers of the bird and porcupine are bound through wrapping and tying with string, thus encouraging them to share their unique ashe with the object. Incrustations is the result of people feeding the power object and demonstrates its life force. The object becomes encrusted with its power food. To remain alive and powerful, the objects must be fed. The well-fed object. Food is an important tool, for it sustains the life and empowers the soul of the magical object. Traditionally, a power object may have been fed by applying ground stones or plants, leaves, feathers, ground bones, the skins, teeth, sexual organs, or horns of powerful animals, chicken blood, saliva, or even semen. Medicine bags. A medicine bag is a collection of power objects contained in a pouch or bag. It is charged through feeding an infinite variety of natural materials, though some are man-made, including glass and gunpowder. The best examples of these magical figures or accumulative sculptures come from Central Africa. The Yaka, Suku, and Congo peoples prepare sachets made from shells, baskets, pots, bottles, food tins, plastic bags, or leather bags. The Bamana of the Western Sudan use power objects such as medicine bags that are imbued with ashe for addressing various ills. These objects are used to express warrior power, to fight supernatural malaise, and to foil evil intentions. The bags contain bilongo, medicine, and a muyo, a soul. Other materials encased in a mojo bag include ephemera, associated with the dead, coffin nails, ground bones, or graveyard dirt. The objects, whether stick, stone, leaf, or bone, have a corresponding spirit, ancestral, deity, or natural, and particular medicinal language ascribed to it. Soul bags. One can well imagine enslaved Congo and Angolan medicine people bringing the concept of bilongo and muyo together in the New World to produce what we call mojo bags or soul bags. In addition to the conceptual connection of muyo as soul, there is the visual connection between the words muyo and mojo, which may suggest that the latter is an anglicized translation. In Hoodoo practice, mojo bags are prepared by a specialist akin to the nganga, healer or priest, priestess, plural, benganga, called in English a root worker or conjurer. With the aid of their soul food, the individual objects within each bag become a cumulative force that guides the spirits to understand the reason their help is sought. Nkisi, Minkisi. Nkisi is a Congo power figure. Minkisi is the plural. Ne Congo, a cultural hero, carried the first healing medicines, Minkisi, with him from heaven to earth. He prepared the medicines in a clay pot, set on top of 3 stones or termite mounds, creating the widely held belief that a healer, nganga, needed to create and dispense medicine. Minkisi include elemental objects representative of land, sky, fire, and water. Minkisi, also called charms, are empowered by the spirit of nature. These figures help people heal and can serve as a safe spot or hiding place for the soul. They might contain seashells, feathers, nuts, berries, stones, bones, leaves, roots, or twigs. Nkisi are as diverse and plentiful as the types of illnesses that exist on Earth. A Nkisi Nkondi, for example, is a figure into which nails are inserted to bind the figure's power. Leaves and medicine combine with various elements, increase the strength. Each ingredient has an action on humans, and the bringing together of various natural forces becomes a source of healing. In another form of empowering feeding, the Yake, Congo, Teke, Suku, and Songhai pack a cavity in the belly of their sculptures with a wide array of aché-containing materials: bones, fur, claws and elephant footprints, crocodile teeth, scales, and sexual organs lightning excreta, bones, flesh, and nails of sorcerers, and remnants of suicide victims and of warriors. The figurines are covered with the skins of power animals: buffalo, wildcats, lizards, antelope, and birds, and then decorated with raffia, cloth, bells, beads, metals, and nails. Dalilu. All of this mixing of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?